At the Prime Minister's insistence, Cabinet last night decided that Coronation Hill, with its $500 million worth of gold and other minerals, should be put into Kakadu National Park, safe from mining forever. The reason? The belief of Jawoyn Aborigines that mining would be sacrilege because it would disturb the Dreamtime spirit, Bulla.
I can honestly tell you that there are 600-odd happy, very, very happy Jawoyn people.
According to Cabinet sources, ministers by a small majority were against closing off the mining option, but Mr Hawke had preempted them by publicly supporting a ban. Communications Minister Kim Beazley, pro-mining, told the Prime Minister, "It's your government, you choose." And Mr Hawke chose to declare that his anti-mining position had prevailed.
I don't pretend that this was an easy decision.
At a late-night news conference, Mr Hawke reacted angrily to suggestions that his attitude reflected a debt to Labor's left wing, which supported him against Paul Keating in the leadership challenge.
I repudiate that sort of nonsense for the despicable sort of crap that it is.
But that did not convince West Australian Labor MP Graham Campbell, who intends to try to have the decision overturned by caucus.
Perhaps he's just a captive of the left, and this would look very much for the left agenda. Hawke is doomed. There's no doubt about that.
The convenience of having water available at the turn of a tap will now cost Hunter householders $205 each year, up $7 from the old rate. Each litre used will also cost a bit more. From November, each kilolitre will cost 71.8 cents, with an additional charge of 58 cents per kilolitre for sewer use. For the average householder, that will mean a yearly bill of about $485, up $22 from last year's average. Add to that the Water Board's environmental improvement charge of $72.59, and you're looking at a slug of more than $558 for 12 months of tap turning. That's an increase of about 4.8%, less than the current CPI figure of 5.2%. Government departments will face a much steeper rise. They'll now be forced to pay for all the water they use.
We think it's the only way to do business. Like the government require a return from us, dividends in any other form, we expect government departments also to pay their way.
Small businesses may actually save money under the new system. The commercial property value charge will decrease by 6%, and those who use little will pay less.
Special licensing police went to the Golden Eagle Hotel last year where they allegedly watched a strip show by performers known as the Fantasy Girls. The case went to the Liquor Licensing Court in Newcastle where Justice Armati fined the hotel $20,000 and suspended its licence to trade for 3 months. It's believed that fine has been reviewed downwards to only $2,000. The hotel's licensee has won a stay against the suspension pending an appeal in Sydney at a later date. Meanwhile, the only group feeling the full impact of the decision are the Fantasy Girls. Manager Ray Baxter says no hotel is game to offer them work after the decision, even though he believes the show is comparatively tame.
It is hard to know what the rules are, but one thing for sure, the Golden Eagle would be the tamest show in town. You know.
So that means a lot of other people must be considering what kind of shows they're putting on.
I hope so. I hope that they do look at that. Yeah.
The Coca-Cola company offered to cut a rostered day off a month and a picnic holiday for clerical employees in exchange for a pay increase of about $2,500 a year. Only 10 clerical staff were affected in Newcastle and about 60 at the company's major plant at Northmead. It's understood most employees accepted the arrangement, but a letter sent to staff raised the ire of the Federated Clerks Union.
What the company have done is sent a letter to each of their clerical staff, and I'll read from their own document, that where they say, as a staff employee, you are no longer bound by any requirement to be a member of the Federated Clerks Union, and the company would expect you to resign from the union.
The Industrial Commission agreed that the requirement was overstepping Coca-Cola's authority. Justice Leonie Glynn said that there would be a stage in the clerk's career when it will become obvious that it is no longer appropriate for that person to remain a member of the union, but that recognition is to be made by the member in question and to be a matter of choice for such a member. A spokesman for Coca-Cola says the offending sentence has since been withdrawn, but the Federated Clerks Union says the damage has been done.
I believe it's been to try and weaken the strength of the union within that company.
Don't be fooled by the number plate. This is not the sort of car favoured by James Bond. It belongs to another era, when style counted for more than speed. With cars and drivers carrying ample fuel, the convoy left the Newcastle waterfront at a suitably dignified pace. Time hasn't taken its toll on these vintage vehicles. They'll travel to Alice Springs and back over the next 5 weeks, a trip of more than 4,500 kilometres designed to raise funds for the Flying Doctors Service. Meanwhile at Hexham, a group of trend-setting youngsters were displaying their prowess on 2 wheels. New laws making bike helmets compulsory for children under 16 don't come into effect until next month. But obstacle races like this are showing the kids that plastic hats won't put a lid on their fun.
It's a common phrase, back-breaking work, and for the average Australian, it's an alarmingly dangerous problem. Studies show there are more than 100,000 cases of occupational back disorders each year.
When you have a back injury, what's at risk is your spine. This is your spine. The bones and the discs are cushions between the bones. And there's only 2 things that can hurt your spine, really, in terms of lifting, and that's bending and twisting.
American professor Richard Schwartz, who is in Australia to give a series of seminars, says workers must mend their ways, and a simple electronic device could be the answer. It's called a lift alert, a mercury-activated warning system. When the back is bending the wrong way, the alarm rings and the worker should stop and try again. According to Professor Schwartz, this is the right way to lift, keeping the back straight and knees bent. While companies are urged to design operations that are health conscious, workers are also responsible for straightening their backs and taking a heavy compensation load off the Australian economy. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
According to police, the theft of agricultural chemicals has become a multi-million-dollar industry. Last year, an estimated $2 million worth of goods was stolen. The latest incident occurred at the weekend when thieves broke into Bakewell and Menzies' warehouse at Sandgate.
I think they must have had a shopping list. They apparently knew what they were looking for. They know their products. They've just taken the ones with the most value.
Alan Bakewell says a range of goods were taken, including cattle vaccine, drench and Ivomec, a substance which kills parasites. He urges farmers to buy from reputable distributors rather than accept bargain prices for what may be stolen goods.
And it's particularly vaccines. Now they should be refrigerated or stored at a low temperature. Otherwise they're rendered, their efficiency is reduced, could be useless. So even if you get it at half price, you're probably buying something that's only got 10% of its original value.
A truck similar to this was parked inside the warehouse. The thieves filled it with rural products and drove off with the loot. Investigating police believe the stolen goods may be distributed to properties in northern New South Wales and Queensland. They want anyone who's seen the white F250 Ford Canopy ute, registration number NBT 733, to report it to police. A special hotline has been established to gather information about rural theft. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
After several years of regular operations between Sydney, Newcastle and Asia, the Chinese-owned COSCO line is taking its last shipment from the port of Newcastle. The container ship took mixed cargo and a large quantity of aluminium from Tomago smelter destined for Japan. As we reported last week, COSCO says rising port charges have forced them to cut back on ports of call in Australia, and Newcastle missed out to Sydney. MSB Hunter Ports Authority manager Jeff Connell said the economic climate had resulted in a drop in shipping volume and the move made sound business sense.
I agree with them that a single port call in New South Wales is appropriate under the current circumstances. What I'm working on now is making them decide that Newcastle's that port rather than Sydney.
Mr Connell says recently introduced user pays charging had shifted port costs from cargo owners to the shipping companies, but Newcastle could still compete with Sydney.
Newcastle's a cheaper port to do business with. The difficulty we have is that you have to coordinate the transport logistics because the major metropolitan market is still 160 kilometres away from Newcastle.
The Ports Authority had put together an attractive package for timber importers who are now regularly using Newcastle Port instead of Sydney. Mr Connell said efforts were being made to create a similar package for the COSCO line, which would be presented to them in the near future. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
The Hunters Employment and Social Security workers attended a number of low-key seminars throughout the region today to familiarise themselves with the government's radical New Start unemployment scheme. The briefings were a far cry from those held in Melbourne yesterday, which attracted hundreds of angry protesters. But all remained quiet on the Newcastle front, where the unemployed apparently haven't been told about the impending change. What do you think about the New Start scheme?
I haven't heard anything about it, sorry.
I know nothing at all. As far as I know, I'm still unemployed and I'm still on unemployment benefits.
What do you know or think about the New Start scheme?
To be honest, I don't know much at all.
People unemployed for more than 12 months will have to abide by training conditions set out in a Commonwealth Employment Service contract in order to receive an unemployment benefit. Those out of a job for less than 12 months must be able to demonstrate they are actively looking for work or undertaking suitable training. An advertising campaign to launch the new scheme began today, but not everyone is convinced of its virtues. Plans to have the long-term unemployed enter into a personal contract with the CES have been criticised by local ethnic leaders who fear their people may be disadvantaged.
There are a few concerns. I thought I would have started with completely different issues, but at the moment we have to accept as it is.
The Public Sector Union has expressed its concern as well. It says CES officers aren't designed to cope with potentially hostile clients. It claims this could create a dangerous situation for its members and has called on the government to delay the scheme's introduction. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
It's an all too familiar and unwelcome sight for motorists. One day the petrol signs are around the 65 cents a litre mark, the next day they're 7 cents higher. Most retailers in the Lower Hunter area today were selling petrol at 71.9 cents a litre. A few were holding out at the old price of 64.9, but their resistance was breaking.
It'll be going up tonight. I just follow everybody else.
A spokesman for a major oil company says the price rise is simply a sign of market forces at work. The prices have been low since early June, but suddenly the wholesale price jumped from 61.9 to 65.8 cents a litre. So, to make ends meet, the retailers have had to lift their price. The spokesman denies the price rise has anything to do with the coming school holidays, but the person behind the wheel is far from happy with the hike.
Thanks. The same every holiday, every school holiday. Pretty weak, I think.
You can't live on what you make a week, and trying to put petrol in your car, it's not the go. You'd run out of money too quick.
Bundy the sugar.
Although a large quantity of goods connected with last night's arrest have already been claimed by owners, there's still a vast array of power tools, video and sound systems, kitchen appliances and gardening equipment awaiting owners over the next few days. A 19-year-old Charlestown man was arrested last night and charged with 36 break, enter and steal offences in connection with the haul. Detectives say the arrest is just one in a series of unrelated offences.
Well, there's been 19 offenders since the beginning of the year have been charged with about 111 break-enter and steals.
Police have also charged a 35-year-old Charlestown man with receiving in connection with last night's arrest. It's estimated of the $25,000 worth of goods taken from the neighbourhood, only $6,000 have been recovered. Police say that in many cases, Charlestown residents were making themselves targets.
The majority of places that he went to, he was either going in open garages or just lifting garage doors which were unlocked. So it has been a little bit too easy for them.
The recently introduced police beat patrols will be on the lookout for open and unlocked garages which are proving all too tempting to thieves. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
One of these faces could be a future Vice-Chancellor or Dean of Engineering, or perhaps a Booker Prize winner. Whatever their future potential, these Year 11 and 12 students face a daunting decision: if, where and how to enrol in a tertiary course. School's Visit Day is designed to make that decision a little easier.
It's really a day like a day at university for a university student. They find out what it's like to be a university student. They work out their timetable, they learn where the library is, the union is, the different facilities the university has. So next year when they actually come to university, it's not so scary.
And how does it look from the inside?
It's a bit scary. It's so different to school and life's different.
Oh, I think it'd be great. You meet a lot of people, like social life would be good.
While the day is meant to acquaint future students with the campus, some were clearly having trouble matching maps with buildings. Others took a casual approach. Some have come from as far away as Coffs Harbour and Dubbo. All will return home with a whole lot to think about.
At this stage they've received all the information, they've just got to read and digest it and work out what course and what uni they want to go to. Hopefully it'll be Newcastle.
The Broadmeadow Stadium was a nest of intensity today as the Falcons put their bodies on the line during a particularly physical training session.
That's the way. Good move to the bucket again, Jamie.
The clash with Sydney might only be a day away, but Coach Ken Cole wants his troops battle-hardened before they attempt to match muscle with the league's toughest team.
When you play Sydney, you've got to be mentally prepared as much as physically, because it's going to be a very torrid sort of game. So we've got to be ready for the fact that we're going to get knocked around a lot and able to combat that.
Cole is looking for a courageous performance from Lanky centre Neil Turner, who got the best of King's strongman Ken McCleary when the two teams last met and doesn't intend taking any backward steps in the return encounter.
You get bumped a lot and banged up a lot, but if sometimes he does that to no effect, and you just got to keep getting banged and cropping it sweet and keep playing.
The Falcons will also have some added depth on the bench with the return of live-wire guard Peter Harvey. A badly broken finger has kept him sidelined for the best part of a month, and he's itching to get back in the thick of the action.
I've been going away with the guys to all their road trips, and to sit on the sideline and watch them run up and down, it's not a nice feeling at all.
Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
The Hunter Public Health Unit now receives notification of infectious diseases directly from laboratories. While only a dozen cases of hepatitis A have been reported this year, Dr. John Stevenson says this is just the tip of the iceberg.
It's quite common in the community. It's quite an infectious virus, and many people in the community never know that they have it.
The hepatitis A virus affects the liver. Symptoms include loss of appetite, nausea, dark-coloured urine and jaundice. It is highly contagious, especially among school children. Doctors say personal hygiene is important to stop it from spreading. People who handle food should be particularly careful.
It's very important that where one of the staff is off colour and sick, that condition be diagnosed. If it's hepatitis, it's very important that they be removed from that food handling situation for the time being, and that may take a couple of weeks.
A gamma globulin injection offers short-term protection to people who have come into contact with the virus, or for those who are travelling overseas. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Plenty of action from the outsetters. Darren Slocky and Craig Hubbard decided to become better acquainted, although there are better ways of shaking hands. With the Rosellas doing all the attacking, the first try was inevitable, but it took a mammoth pass from Tony Price to Hubbard and then a short ball to Morrison to set it in motion, and West were on the board. From there on it was a procession, as Greg Price got a great ball to Tony Price, and his lob pass found Peter Jenner on the wing, and he barged his way over for number 2. Greg Price was in everything, and his gem of a pass found Baker backing up, and the centre raced up over the halfway. He then chip-kicked the fullback, and to everyone in the ground seemed to have won the race for the ball and ground it, but the referee ruled no try. Not to be denied, Price gave a good ball to Mitchell, and the Rosellas fullback was in under the posts. 16-0 at half-time, and West came out as they had from the opening moments of the match, with Waratah's Anthony Shannon letting a few go as if he were in Las Vegas. West concentrated on the football, and Mitchell made a break in his own half and he linked up with Jenner. The big winger put the foot down, found Neil Baker backing up on the inside, and the Rosellas were enjoying themselves as they belted the defending premiers.